Well, hello, everybody. I am here today to talk to you about how to improve fertility and increase your pregnancy outcomes through fertility yoga. Oh, hi, Yusha. Oh, can you hear me now, Marie? Hi, Carla. Okay,
I'm
Aisha
suggesting
says,
for those who can't hear to rejoin. That happens from time to
okay,
time with this platform. We apologize for
okay,
that. Yeah, try to rejoin.
okay, okay. Aisha, thank you. You signed up for my emails and they are so good. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I did, there is a handout in the section for you to download. It's a quick guide for Yoga for Fertility 101 with a lot of the bullet points of everything I'm going to discuss today. So, welcome again. My name is Erin McCullough. I am the founder of Fertile Hope Yoga. It is an all online platform where we practice yoga for fertility. And so a little background about myself and how I got here. I have been practicing yoga and teaching yoga for over 25 years, with 20 years dedicated to yoga therapy and women's health. I am also a licensed massage therapist. I am a Reiki practitioner. I am an Arvigo massage practitioner. I am just finished certification in something in with the neuroenergetic, uh, which is basically like yoga for the mind. So hypnotherapy, life coaching, all good stuff. Jen says she cannot see me, Valerie.
I can
Okay.
hear and see you well. I just left the stage so everyone can see you during the presentation. Yeah, and people say it's fine. We can see you.
Okay, is this happening throughout the whole thing? Okay, I won't read the chat. I'll just keep going. I'll let you figure all that out.
Sure.
I just want to make
That's
sure
fine. No,
everyone.
no, no.
Okay.
If you want, you can look in the chat, but I'm also here to help, so no worries.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, anyways, I have, as you can see, my depth of healing credentials are. I have a wide range of healing abilities and what I bring to the table. I started working within a fertility clinic about 15 years ago. I started, I was invited by Dr. Robert Kiltz, who is a reproductive endocrinologist and founder of CNY Fertility. It's one of the largest and most affordable fertility clinics in the world. And he decided that he wanted to include integrative medicine into his traditional medicine program because what he knew at the time was that one of the number one reasons his clients were not getting pregnant was because of stress, right? Emotional, mental, financial. Can be very extremely difficult to persevere without tools and resources to support our mental and emotional wellness. So I was invited into his clinic and sorry, my dog, started teaching what is now Fertile Hope Yoga, which is a global online program. But that's kind of where I taught and got my start and experience and working directly with Dr. Keltz to create the program. So before we get into yoga for fertility, which is a very specific way of moving, I thought I'd address, because all of you are in a little bit of a different place in terms of where you're at with your relationship of trying to conceive, or maybe you're preparing your mindset, your body for pregnancy. So let's just talk like back, kind of see the forest through the trees a little bit about just movement in general. So what we know about movement in general is it's so healthy and welcome for our bodies, right? So it boosts our immune system, it helps our circulation, it helps our joints, it helps our mind, our body. It is it helps our sleep, right? There's no debating the benefits of movement. And when we're moving into this season of our lives, where we're starting to think about creating our families, or we're actively working on creating or growing our families, there's an opportunity to then really bring some more attention and mindfulness, which is why you're all here, to how we're moving. And is our movement what we're choosing and how we're choosing to move? Is it really fueling our current direction and our current goals? So if you were a marathon runner, right? And now you're trying to conceive. Well, maybe there's a way that you can incorporate some different movement, or maybe not take it down a notch, right? So we have to start thinking about these things. And then on top of that, if you have any known inflammatory situations like PCOS, where you're not ovulating regularly, or endometriosis, or you've already been trying for a while and you're now working with a fertility doctor, things can get complicated in terms of now we have an added thing of like, what's actually serving me, what's actually supporting balancing my hormones, or managing some of the symptoms of going through medical treatments, right? So it can get complicated and layered pretty quickly. So if you're not having any issues and known issues, or have any underlying conditions that you know might present some challenges to getting pregnant, then I would say, your movement practice, it's not going to be as important for you to be mindful in these specific ways as someone who's undergoing IVF. And it's a very structured, regimented process where you have very specific needs at very times, right? So, but what we know is that some forms of movement draw blood away from our reproductive organs, right? So running, weightlifting, all these kind of broader movement practices recruit blood away from our ovaries, uterus, and our reproductive cells. We're recruiting blood to our major muscle groups. So what I advocate for as you're moving into this very specific phase and season of your life, which is beautiful, you have an opportunity to now incorporate some more holistic movement practices, which means that when I say holistic movement, I'm talking about like yoga, walking, tai chi, qigong. So these practices will support nourishment of our energetic systems, our lymph systems, our blood, our circulation. So we're not drawing blood away from our uterus and ovaries, but we're asking blood and drawing blood to those, which we need for egg health, sperm health, our essential cellular health, which I'll talk more about in a moment. Does that make sense? So hopefully that gives you kind of a broader scope of where we're at in terms of movement. So now let's talk specifically about yoga for fertility, and actually what is it and how can it actually improve your fertility and lead to increased pregnancy outcomes. So yoga for fertility is a deliberate way of practicing yoga. So each yoga pose, so it's not like we're making up new yoga poses. The yoga poses are universal, but it's a therapeutic way of taking each yoga pose, which has, so every single yoga pose, like child's pose, for instance, has a specific physiological benefit, right? It's opening certain muscles, it's lengthening certain muscles. It also has a certain mental benefits. It's quieting for the mind. It has certain energetic benefits, like which energy system it's creating some opening for, right? Every single yoga pose has a multifaceted impact in our body, our collective whole body, mind, body, spirit. When we string together a bunch of yoga poses like a recipe in a very specific way, we can create a very specific outcome for how we're feeling in our bodies and minds. So, what that means is we can practice yoga in a very deliberate way as you go through your cycle. I'm a huge advocate for practicing your movement cycle specific. So, for instance, like if you're trying naturally, I don't like that word, but because I think they're all natural ways of getting pregnant, but for lack of better terminology, if you're trying on your own at home and this is of course would require you to get regular periods, you have your period, you can practice yoga in a way that supports that letting go, supports any symptoms that come that you may be experiencing with your period, like fatigue or cramping or moodiness. And then after your period, up until you ovulate, it's a more energy, we have more natural energy. So this is a time to practice yoga poses that are cleansing, that are more rigorous. So for those of you who like to move in a more demanding way for our body, now is the time for flows, for really moving energy, blood, right? And then if you're trying to conceive, you have at the next phase is your luteal phase where you might be pregnant. So we want to practice yoga in a way that's deliberately supporting implantation, right? So we're not doing deep twists, which are like wringing out for the uterus. We want to keep the uterus nice and open. We want to encourage the blood flow. We want to encourage, our nervous system to calm. That can be a very demanding time for, especially if you're prone to anxiety, right? We're getting our hopes up and waiting to find out if we're pregnant. And then, of course, while we're pregnant, that's another great opportunity to practice yoga in a very specific way to support what we need mentally, emotionally in that time. Now, we also we can practice yoga in a cycle specific way, whether you're doing an IUI cycle, if you're doing medical treatments. So intrauterine insemination, IVF. And this is where my experience working in an IVF clinic comes in very handy, because all of the sequences I put together are safe and can actually support follicular development. If you're doing a frozen embryo transfer, you can practice in a way that actually enhances and encourages the uterine lining to grow. So yeah, that's what yoga for fertility, the possibilities of practicing yoga in a specific way, in a therapeutic way that's for fertility. So how can this all, now that you're practicing yoga in a more mindful way, that's kind of meeting you exactly where you're at as you're trying to get pregnant. And by the way, even if you're not trying to get pregnant, but preparing, practicing in a cycle specific way can actually support regulating your cycles. So if you're working on just that part of things too. So how does yoga for fertility help? Why am I encouraging you to do this? Well, for one, it's proven, and I'm going to read you what the research says, is there's increased pregnancy rates. So I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Ali Domar. She is a Harvard researcher who has put all of her resources and time into studying the benefits of including mind-body medicine, which is like yoga, group work, meditation, and how including those in your treatment impacts pregnancy outcomes. So I'm going to read one of the research studies, kind of a quick summary of what that said. So Ali Domar showed that 55% of infertility patients who participated in her mind-body program for a 10-week period, which included yoga and meditation, conceived, compared to 20% in the control group when tested over a year. This means that women increased their chances of pregnancy by 175%, or were 3 times as likely to get pregnant. That speaks for itself. And, you know, I see it here anecdotally at Fertile Hope Yoga all the time. You know, all my members, I have a 90% graduation rate, aka pregnant after the first trimester, they graduate from Fertile Hope Yoga. So I see it anecdotally all the time. And if you're interested in her work, Dr. Ali Domar, she's written 3 or 4 books on the power of mind body medicine and incorporating that into your fertility journey. So 2, we're actually improving your fertility at a cellular level. So I touched on this earlier, but all exercise, we know, as I mentioned before, improves blood flow. But when we're practicing something like yoga, now we're taking blood that could be recruited only by the bigger muscles in like running or biking or weightlifting. When we're practicing yoga, we're recruiting the blood to nourish our the cells of our ovaries and uterus. And what this means when we're getting blood flow means increased oxygen, nutrients, and hormones. And that means healthy cells and decreased inflammation. So when we're working on egg quality or sperm quality, sperm or egg health, we can control that. We can make an impact through our lifestyle choices. And I know you've heard a lot earlier today, especially if you've been here all day, I'm sure, about nutrition and other ways to do this. Movement matters, and how our bodies are like a robot for what our mind tells it. So yoga works on our mind and our body. We need about 90 days for we can make an immediate impact, but for true, the way the eggs and sperm mature takes about 90 days to really make lifestyle choices, make a big impact in our fertility. Number 3 benefit is we know through research that yoga relieves stress and decreases anxiety, decreases depression, and especially with the pandemic, anxiety and depression is like, mental health is number 1 right now, right? We all are having extra stress and need as much support for our nervous systems as possible. There's another Harvard researcher, Herbert Benson, who founded the Mind Body Research Center at Harvard, who Ali Domar works with. And he went on to describe something called a series of events that happen in our body called the relaxation response. Yoga elicits the relaxation response. And what that looks like is a decreased heart rate, decreased blood pressure, decreased breathing rate, decreased stress hormones, decreased muscle tension, shifts our brain waves away from and increases brain waves that are more relaxing, and it helps our immune systems return to normal. When we have increased stress, it increases cortisol levels, which depletes our reproductive hormone levels. So it's conflicting there. And then I want to share one more study with you. This one is from a study in fertility and sterility, which is one of the main study publication journals for all of fertility medicine in 2005. Research published by experts at the University of California at San Diego reported that stress may play a role in the success of infertility treatments, including IVF. After administering a series of questions designed to measure patient stress levels, the researchers found that women who scored highest, indicating the highest levels of stress, had ovulated 20% fewer eggs compared to women who were less stressed. Moreover, of those who were able to produce eggs, those who were most stressed were 20% less likely to achieve fertilization success. So it matters. So the other thing I want to kind of put into the bucket of like, what is yoga for fertility, is we think of Westerners think of yoga as just on the mat yoga and the movement piece. Well, there's actually 8 what are called limbs, like 8 parts to a holistic yoga practice. So they're called yamas, niyamas, pranayama, asana. And so asana, the movement, is just one piece. So when you're practicing yoga in a holistic way, what that means is now you're tapping into practices that support you, what I call yoga on and off the mat. So how we're walking through our day and interacting with others, what is our internal dialogue like, right? Like what is happening in our bodies mentally. So with these practices, we can cultivate resilience, restore confidence in our bodies. Some of the more intangibles that are just as important in this process as anything else, especially if you've been trying for a while and are starting to feel defeated or, blaming yourself, or you're not, being hard on yourself in your body. How can we invite grace? How can we persevere? How can we cultivate resilience? How can we show up to be our best selves? All of it matters, because as we prepare to get pregnant or are trying to get pregnant, the state of our mind, our health, directly impacts our pregnancy. And what we know is if you're healthy before pregnancy, it's going to lead to higher rates of healthy pregnancy and a higher rate of healthy baby. So I utilize in Fertile Hope Yoga, we use something that I created called the Bloom Yoga Therapy Method. This is the holistic version of practicing yoga for fertility. So B is for be in your body. L is for leaning into community. O is for optimizing your mind. The other O is for opening to learning. And the last M is for manifesting miracles. And every step of the process, we utilize different tools and different resources to not only benefit from the physical parts of the asana practice, but how can we look at our underlying beliefs? How can we impact the subconscious part of our brain, which can single-handedly change everything? Because like I said, the way our brains work is what we believe and what we are is what's going to be possible for our lives, for our bodies. That also means that we can change things at any time. And some of this work is some of the deeper work that's not necessarily easy to access. Also, if you've been trying a while or have had losses, we know that there's the whole compounding grief process that can happen and does happen. And so there's an opportunity with my specific method here to release trauma, to move through that, to just kind of rekindle hope and find the belief and trust and joy in the process.